Yudel Ben Baruch Lev Cohen. Friends and family of Siggy Bessler, Shalom Traga Ben Dun. Friends of Marvin Weinstein, Mordechai Ozer Ben Israel Aaron. Sarah Alfred in memory of her husband, Rav Tzvi Lipa Ben Lev. Bella and David Adler in memory of her father, Eliel Ben Yosef Cohen. Friends of Lenny Chaffetz, Hannah Shoshana Bas Uzer. Friends of Jack Prince, Yaakov Yitzchak Ben Shmuel Doug. Friends of Sandy Davidoff, Shalamis Bas, Chaim Elio. Friends.
Oh, yeah.
Friends of Judy Cohen, Yehudis Liba Bas Moshe. Friends of Dr. Annette Safransky, Hannah Bas Brian Fischel. Galen Leslie Kaplan, and memory of their parents.
Yeah, the red. Most there, I like. Oh.
People pay $2,500. You fly it when I read their name. When I get to the week people, you can.
There it is. There it is.
Weak people?
Yeah, people who only donate a week. Gail and Leslie Kaplan in memory of their parents, Mrs. Prince Abbas Yosef Chaim Bachava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer Bachana, Besha Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Alevi Ben and Isser Ben Yoel Moshe HaKohen Bachana. Friends of Linda Katz, Hinda Abbas, Yehoshua.
Oh, sorry, gentlemen. I don't know what happened there.
Not bad.
Sarah Rivka Bas, Pufara Uda, and Betzalel Ben Avra Alev. Month of Learning, Ronald and Susan Podolsky, memory of his father, Tzvi Ben Pinchas. A week of learning, now you can talk. Week of learning, Michael and Sharon Glass, in memory of his father, Yitzhak Ben Tzvi Ben Nickel, and Lala Bessler, in memory of her mother, Brindle Bas Yehiel. May the Neshamas have an Aliyah, Allah Kranka, Rabia, and Ali Yid.
Amen.
Amen.
That was well said.
Oh my,
like my people, you know. Okay, but we're just getting set up here. Let me explain a little from yesterday. It was very important. Yesterday, exactly. We're going to be on. Anyone know? Cliff Lamed Hay. Oh, thank you. But here's what happened. I want to explain because otherwise it's a little difficult to understand. Yesterday there were really two contradictory opinions, but the Gemara didn't bother to emphasize it. Okay, it's like this. One opinion says that essentially, if a person says, I divorced my wife, we can believe it. Why? Because he has what's called amigo. We can say, listen, if he wants, he can divorce her right this second, so believe it, that he divorced her. What's the difference? And at least, so we said the only thing is that's good for the future, but not good for the past. And then we debated whether he said in the past he was good for the future. That was one of the topics. There's another topic that essentially says, thank you. There's another opinion, thank you. There's another opinion that says that you can live in that gets divorced. That everybody, the guy gets through saying, oh, you know, hey, they divorced. That's one of those things that people talk about. Everybody gets out. Everybody knows about it. But still, when you hear any rumors, it's very hard to believe a guy that he's divorced. And it's called the legal b'makam agent. You have a rule. Legal doesn't work whenever he's against witnesses, or even if there's witnesses for him, either way, it doesn't matter. Whenever there's witnesses by amigo, you can't believe the guy because it's as if we're testifying that it didn't happen. Divorce doesn't happen quietly. This is the word, you know, they talk about the bad news. Bad news travels quick, but certain things, it's impossible. You know what I mean? I had a friend, so he's very nice, great expressions, you know. So they said, "I says, I was looking for you. I could." But he says, "If I owed you money, you would have found me. If I owed you money, you would have found me." Certain things, there's certain things here we say that if a guy was really divorced, he would have.
The word would get out.
You would have heard about it.
And should move out.
Because I'll tell you why. Because it's different. When we say weddings, for example, when a girl gets married and she's first married, that there's a code, that's because everybody sees it. It's public. Divorces are not done publicly. They're usually done quietly. Nobody makes a big celebration. Hey, Mazel Tov, you're invited to a divorce. Yeah, but I'm just saying, it's not. Yeah, I'm just saying, but it's not the norm. Yeah, the norm is not that way. The norm is nobody invites everybody to.
Someone in the school,
Yeah.
it's a good Kiddush every year in honor of his divorce.
Okay, so-
Yeah, I mean, you don't
Yeah.
have a bad enough.
yeah, I
marriage,
know, but
you
I'm
wanna
just.
help
But the norm is not the way. The norm is not. People are not making parties to
have
invite
the
everybody
money.
to invite everybody to their divorce. So therefore, there's a machlokas really. One opinion that we learned yesterday essentially says what? That a person who says he was divorced, at least for the future, has amigo. Since it's within his power to do what he said, he didn't have to lie to free his wife up to marry somebody. He can just divorce her. So we believe me. He said he divorced her now. The other opinion says no, because since divorce, ironically, has a type of coal, and the word gets out, the fact that we haven't heard about it, it mitigates against or militates against believing him. That's the argument that we had yesterday. So therefore, we really did end up yesterday, even though it didn't look like it, we ended up with two different opinions. One says as long as there's no evidence.
Really,
No, really.
because do we believe him in the?
No, I said that's what we. So
the
that's one opinion.
future.
That's one. No, that's
But
what.
then
That's
there's an
no,
opinion you don't think at all.
yeah. But I'm just saying that for our purposes, there's two opinions. We all agreed. We said no. We all agreed. We said one. We said we all agreed. For the past, it doesn't work for the future. What we didn't know was we left it in doubt when he claims the past. Can it work for the future? That was left up. So it was two. So then we had this two opinions. So today we're actually revisiting those two opinions in a practical case. And now we're at the top of Kuf Lamed Hay. Okay? Kuf Lamed Hay. Am I right? Yeah. Yeah.
Would a Yorei Shemayim prefer to protect his wife or to honor his brother with Yibu?
No. It's not, it's the other way. No, that's
Depends on the wife.
No. It's for sure. We want to make every man wants to make it easy for his wife. Yibum is a big nuisance. It's a big nuisance. It's not helping her. We want a woman when a man dies, a woman wants to be free, and the man wants the woman to be free. I told you, Begin, who was not a religious man but was a very nice man. He was a good man. So he was arrested by the NKVD. There wasn't KBG yet. It was the NKVD. Yeah, he was arrested, and when they sent people to Siberia in those years, people died. People didn't go to Siberia. They took a person and they worked them until they died. And that was it was good. It was goodbye. Oh, so he called. So when he realized that he's not getting out of jail, he was in Vilna. So he called his friend. He said, come, let's arrange for my wife to have a get. He loved his wife. Then he gets a scarf from his wife. I can't remember what his wife's name was, but in the scarf is embroidered the name Ola, O-L-A. This is Ola. His wife's not Ola. He doesn't know who's Ola. He said, can't figure out what the wife. She had written in Hebrew, Ola. She left. She went to Eretz Israel. It's too late.
He didn't realize.
No, he did. Once he finally figured it, it's too late. She left for Eretz Israel. She went. He would later he had a miracle. He was a miracle. Nobody goes to Siberia. People go to Siberia, they die. They kill him. And said he miraculously Hashem saved him. But anyway, so that's the story. But that's just in general. So generally, men want to make their wives unfettered. That's the mitzvah. So they go.
Is that what the Torah wants?
Yes. That's the way. Yeah, that's the way the Chachamim want. Also, remember, Yibum is a mitzvah if it happens. But here, it's kindness for a woman to be free. And men, it wasn't just by war. By the way, when men went on business trips, they got on a ship. They were to get before they got on the boat. Remember, boats were like today. You think of a ship today, it's like a cruise or a liner, ocean liner. A ship, when they were in a ship, the ship was half the size of this room, and people were lying on the decks over there and covering themselves in the rain. It wasn't like with a cabin and a dining room. They want a tub. You understand? Every time you got on a ship, you put your life in your hands. It was serious. So in general, that's what I'm saying. Every man wants to leave his wife okay when he dies. The wife and the children, obviously, to protect them. That's what I think simply. Okay.
So he loves his wife more than he loves his brother.
It's not that. He has no mitzvah. It's no mitzvah to have his brother marry his wife. If it happens that he died without kids, his brother should marry his wife. See, I'm saying it's not like he has a mitzvah to send his wife to his brother. It's the other way. We'll let him protect his wife. I think
she's rich.
Yeah, you know what? If I'm wrong, we'll find a raya that I'm wrong from the Gemara. But I'm saying that's what it seems to me. Simply, yes. And you see that with
gorgeous and rich.
Yeah.
Then he wants to give her to the brother. And if she's ugly and poor, he also wants to give her to the brother. If she's a Beinah, we don't.
All right, Rabosai. So who the heavy koshachiv? A guy was dying. Amrulay. So they said to him, "Eat the Seilaman." His wife to who? Speaking about him really, but his wife. Who should she go to? In other words, is she mutter to marry? Does she need yibum? Amalu. So he said to them, "Chazi l'kahana rabbi." She's fit. He says even for a kohen gadol. Now, obviously, it's not true because she's kohen gadol can only marry a basula. And the truth is, we're going to see she's not even fit for a regular kohen. He's just a way of saying she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't need you. She doesn't need you. Amar Rabbi, he says, my nichlas. He says, so what's the problem? He says, why should I worry about it? Amar Rabbi Ba'aba. Rabbi Yochanan, Baal Shem HaGrash L'Sishti Neman. Any husband who says, I divorced my wife, we believe him. Okay, that's what we learned. So now he says the same over here. If he says that she can marry, it's the same. Since why do we believe when he says my wife is divorced? Because he can divorce her now. So when he says my wife can marry, since he could divorce her this minute, you're allowed to believe it. So Abaye says to Rabbi, what are you talking about? Didn't we learn the other way? The other way we learned that if a husband divorces, it says he divorced his wife, he's not believed. Okay, remember, like we learned why? Because since we didn't hear about it, we don't trust it. Okay, Amalei says to him, he says, 1 second, but we answered that question. We said, no, we said that wasn't the problem. Pardon me, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. But he said, no, that wasn't the problem. Like we said that that those two opinions were not in contradiction, but rather, all they were arguing about was what was about the past. So the opinion that said he's not believed is about the past. The opinion that said he's believed is about the future, and there's no argument. We can always believe him from this moment forward. Okay. So he says, and since we answered it, he says, let's just rely on the answer. So Rabbi said, Amarle Rabba, the Rav Nachman bar Ami, he said, Chushlo. He said what? So he said, you should worry about what Abaya said. For the reason I said, why? Because maybe we really hold that he's not believed at all. Why? For the reason I said to you, because we haven't heard about it.
So you can't do Yibum because maybe he told the truth. And she can't remarry because maybe he did not tell.
Because that's chalitza.
So
She does chalitza. Right. There was a certain person, as far as we knew, the established knowledge was that he has no brothers. So remember, there's two ways for a woman not to need you. There's no brothers, or there is children. There are children, or there's no brothers. So he says, look, he said, we knew that there's no brother. We Omar, and then when the man is dying, b'shas misa, the lesle achi, he says he has no brothers. Okay, so we as far as we're concerned, we never thought he had brothers. He says, Rav Yosef said, my lichushlo. So what's the problem? Why shouldn't you let her remarry? What's the problem? Okay, and one, our own knowledge, our status quo was that we, as far as we're concerned, he had no brothers. The Odin, furthermore, Amar b'shas misa, the lesle, he said that he has none. Amar le Abaya. So Abaya said to him that he says, he got a problem. There's a rumor in town that there are people far away, overseas in a foreign land, that can testify that he has brothers. So he said to him, he says, I said, listen, but at this moment there are no such witnesses, and I'll show you as a precedent that I don't have to worry about the rumor. And he says, this wasn't the case for Rabbi Chanina. I just want to explain a little bit. In general, we hold that if a woman is taken captive by the goyim, she's not going to be able to marry a kohen, right? Because we're afraid that she was violated by the goyim. That's a normal thing. The goyim violate the women captives. Now, if we didn't know that a woman was taken captive, and she says I was taken captive, but I wasn't violated, we believe her. Because why? Because since we never would have known that she was taken captive had she not told us, that's a famous pesha asa pesha there. If you don't believe her that she wasn't violated, then don't believe her that she was captive. So, and if you believe her that she was captive, then believe her that she wasn't violated. That's no problem. But if there's any witnesses that she was taken captive, then we're stuck. We can't. She can't tell she wasn't violated because we already know. It's too late. We know that. We don't need her to tell us that she was taken captive, and therefore we can't say, well, we wouldn't have known. Okay, we wouldn't have known. But there was the following case. He says, it was a case of Rabbi Chanina. I'm going to show you why I don't have to worry about a rumor that there are witnesses that this guy had a brother and to stop his wife from remarrying. The Amar B'Chanina, because B'Chanina said, there's a case later, like I'm telling you, in this case of there was a case where the women were taken captive. When they came back, they're Eretz Israel, so the Jews separated the women from the captives, and they said, "Listen, what happened?" So what happened was, two of them said, "We were taken captive, and we are clean." Okay, and the third one, the third one actually she was violated, and interestingly enough, she had a baby, and that was Rav Mari. She gave birth to Rav Mari, and the father afterwards, the father himself actually converted, and that he's known as Isa Giora. He actually also the Goyish father also converted. So when they came to the Beis Medrash, okay, and they talked it over, so they said, listen, so the two of the women said what? Listen, we weren't violated. We weren't violated. So okay, but the only thing is what? But since people thought that there were Adim some places that could testify, in the north, okay. And in that case, he said, Rabbi Hanina said, Eidim inside Istan, but they also, what do you mean? Witnesses in Istan, okay, that said that they were taken captive, and what? He says in the north in Babel there's Eidim. He says, and I'm gonna forbid them. Get out of here. They're not here. Well, I'll worry about it. There's no witnesses here. I heard a rumor that there's witnesses. There were no such witnesses. So we have no witnesses that she was taken captive. So the women say, look, we were taken captive when we were clean. Was fine. Okay. So Amarle Abaya said to him, he says, no. He says, if by Shvuya we were makil, he says, you can't compare that. Why? In general, first of all, by Shvuya. Who said that we should live. And anyway, we're Mako by Shvu because we have a principle, and it's in parentheses here. Besides everything else, there's a principle that, and it's famous. We have famous cases like that where the women who were taken captive would purposely make themselves disgusting. They'd smear themselves with the blood, everything, all kinds of things to make themselves disgusting to the captives. So we have a good reason to believe anyway that the women were not violated. So as long as they on a rumor that there's witnesses, I get out of here. Who cares? I can believe the woman. I can apply the migo. But over here, he says Neko Beishasis, but over here by a woman who we really knew was married. Okay, we really knew she was married, and it's a very severe prohibition for her to remarry now without yibum or chalitza. Maybe we have to worry about the rumor of witnesses. The Rabbah, that's what Rabbi says. You know what? Hushal, for the second time, we said what? He said what? Be stringent, like Abai's opinion, okay? And we're going to forbid her to remarry. Okay.
Was the Safek Chalitza permitted?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure you needed it?
Yeah.
We'll give it to you anyway. That's allowed?
That wouldn't be the problem. The problem is if we don't have. Here's the problem. She's really stuck because she can't. We don't know if they're brothers. She can't marry, and we can't get chalitza because we can't find the brother. She's really stuck. This woman. She's in bad shape. That's why you have to.
But the Gemara says you send someone to wear.
Yeah. I'm just saying, but it's a serious problem. Of course, we're going to try. But the thing is, these are the painful cases. The very painful case in Jewish law. The rabbis bend themselves into pretzels. You understand, to find ways to.
But in a plain case, she said, "I don't know if I was violated. I don't know."
No, she knows. What do you mean she doesn't know? What does she doesn't know? What does that mean?
They knocked her out. She woke up, and then she doesn't know what happened.
We have to talk whether there's a chashash. We have to talk about it.
You assume she was.
We have to talk. Okay. Now
they don't give you Rahipnol without doing something afterwards.
If you remember in the Mishnah yesterday, we said that when a guy says, this guy is my brother, he's not believed against his other brothers, right? He can't force them to share the inheritance with this guy. He himself will share, but they're not going to share. He says, but the first thing where it says, Vidach my kamri, what are the other brothers saying? When he says this guy's a brother, what are the other two? But let's say brother 1, 2, and 3, though. He said, yes, they was brother 1 and 2 saying. If they say he's our brother, Amai told him, so why should if they admit that brother 4 is a brother, why should the whole why does only brother 3 share? But 2 low and the other ones don't share their inheritance. El de Ka'amri Lavachinu. So it must be what brothers one and brother three says brother four is a brother. And brothers brother one and two said what? Lavachinu, he's not our brother. Ema Seifa, if they are, I tried to allude this to you yesterday. If they said this guy is not our brother, right? So then wait a second, Ema Seifa, how come in the end, okay, you told me that the part that brothers three shared with brother four, if he dies, only brother three gets it back. I understand. It's his money. He's the one who gave it to them. Okay. But which we could still debate, by the way, just to be honest. Okay, but he said if he independently inherited money from someplace else, then brothers one and two are gonna share with brother three the inheritance from brother four. They said he's not a brother. Why are they getting his money? They just said they said he's not the brother. There's low tree. I'll tell you why. Here's what happens. So you're right. Says the Mishnah can't be that. Otherwise, they have no rights. They swear they're for sure. They say he's not a brother. They're going to give him this inheritance. What are you talking about? The answer is low tree. Ain't on the yodim. Here's the case. They said we don't know. And it could even be, for example, it could be even that they knew, but they never saw him. They don't know if this is the guy. You have two possibilities. They don't know if they have a brother. They don't. Yeah, okay, we heard, but I don't know, who is it? I don't know who this is. We never saw him. Okay. They say, no. They could say
they have to reserve his share.
But the point is, they could say, listen, I don't know if he's a brother or not. I don't know if he's a brother, and therefore what? But since they left room that he is a brother, so what? On a maybe, on the maybe, since they're here, this guy, maybe you can't take the money. You can't take money away from them. On the other brother says that he's a brother, so they're able to get the money. Okay, they're able to get the money back. Because brother three said that he's a brother, so brother three can't take all the money from brother four, but brother three said that they're brothers. Brother three can't take all the money because he himself said that they're brothers. So he couldn't take their money because they didn't know. You understand? But he can take. He has to give them the money because he's the one who said. That's why I told you. Whenever you're religious, you have to watch out. I mentioned this in the Mishnah Shir last week. And the Chavetz Chaim says it. You have to be careful. Because you're religious, if you make a deal with a guy and it's not clear, you're the one who's going to have to give in. You contract somebody in your house, you talk clearly. Because if you don't make the terms clear, you're the religious one, and you're the one because you don't want to steal people's money. You're going to have to give in. Don't do it. Be careful. Write everything down carefully and make a deal. As a religious man, you're going to end up giving in all the time.
When I was 8 years old, my older brother told me I was adopted.
That was his busting your chops. That's
classic.
I heard that too.
But they're all
older brothers tend to do that.
But if you don't look anything like them, like they're all 7 feet tall.
When I was little, the whole family told me the reason I was so dopey was because they said when they were giving out the brains, I was online and they said go forth, and they meant go forward, but I thought they meant go to number 4. And I didn't, so they said I didn't get any. So they said I didn't get any. Amar Rava, he says. Amar Rava, Zosomeris. So the way that we said it, so now you gave credit to a Bari. You essentially said that a sure person takes precedence. Bari v'shema, Bari adif, right? When a person's sure, he says, "Well, because since you told me that, okay." He says that mana libiyodecha. If somebody says, "Listen, you owe me 100," Ba'alo or any of the other guy says, "Look, I don't know if I owe or not." Pater, he's exempt. You see what? That what? Bari b'shema, Bari adif. For what? And when a person says, "I might owe you money," he doesn't have to pay. Even in other words, we don't say Bari adif. Even though the guy said, "I maybe doesn't have to pay." By Omar, he says no. He says, "Lo'olam emelacha." Okay, it could be it could be that a maybe has to pay, but it's different by law. When he says maybe I owe you the money, maybe he has to pay. Why? Because the other guy's sure, and a maybe against the sure wins. But over here it's different. The money because over here, what's the case? When the guy said. They said, I don't know if number 4 should share with us. He said, I'm sure number 4 should share with you. It could be that in general, sure beats maybe. Why doesn't he beat maybe? For a different reason. Because you can't make a sure claim for somebody else. He's not claiming. If he said, you owe me 100, and the other guy said, I don't know, maybe he has to give him 100. But over here, brother 3 isn't saying you owe me 100. You're saying you owe brother 4 100. You can't make a claim for somebody else because brothers 1 and 2 always have right to listen, buddy. You're not our litigant. You're not our opponent in court. And when he comes and he said, even if the rule is that sure against maybe, sure wins. If he would, brother 4 would come, if brother 4 would come and say, I'm sure, and we would say maybe that would be okay. We admit we have to pay him. But over here, you're saying sure, and brother number 4 is not making the claim. You can't make the claim for somebody else. Now, so remember we said, even though there's some debate, I'm going to read it simply. So we said if after brother 3 shared with brother number 4, because he said he was the brother, right? The little bit that brother 4 got, if he dies, it goes back to brother number 3. By Rava, he says, he says, what about, he says, look at that, but remember, you told me that if he gets any money from someplace else, then even brothers 1 and 2 are going to share, because brother number 3 said that he shouldn't get all the money by himself. He said that they're brothers, so he has to, even though he can't take from them, he has to give to them. See, so we want to know, let's say the possessions of brother number 4, Me'alehem, they got better on their own. They got better. They got better. They went up in value. Mao, okay, so what do I do? Do I look at them? That's the same as the possessions themselves, and therefore only brother number 3 inherits them, or it's like a new inheritance, and even brothers 1 and 2 have to share. So the Gemara says like this: produce that's ready. For example, he planted it, and now it's ready to be harvested. Lo tiboilach. Okay, he says that's no question. What the chi naflu lo nechasim emakom achedami. For sure, that's like possessions that came from someplace else. We're ready to harvest. Kiti boilach. Where is the question? Okay, where it's not a question of harvestable stuff that's ready to benefit, but rather what it was. For example, like this: dikla of the olive. Let's say the guy got he got a palm tree and it got thicker, and it's still a palm tree, but it's just thicker. It's worth more. Ara, okay, we got land, but Asko Sirton, and what happened was it got the refuse came on it and became fertilized, so it's worth more, but nothing's changed. What's the law? Is that new or old? When it says Teku, let it stand. Now we have a problem. Let's remember. Let's remember that. Let's remember this. Okay, that a guy when he's dying, he says, "I want to give this or that, this that." We just, as far as we're concerned, whatever he says, it's done. Okay, and that's and he dies and it all goes. If he writes a star, it's a little different. If he gives a gift, the gift is from now. A star is an interesting problem because star, if I write you something in a star, things that can be written in a star, by the way, we're going to have a little confusion here because we're going to talk about money, which really can't be transferred in a star, but it doesn't matter for the moment. But if I write you a piece of land with a star, I still have to put the paper in your hand. You understand, for the land to transfer it. I can give you land with a paper, but I have to put the deed in your hand.
Or to a shliach.
Yeah. But I have to transfer the ownership. I have to transfer the paper. So the Mishnah says, a guy died, and we find that before he died, he written a paper saying, this one gets that, this one gets that, and it's tied to his tie. How is it ain't a klum? So Mishnah says it's nothing. Why? Because since he never took the paper and gave it to the people that he wants to give it to, it did nothing. And a paper doesn't work after a man dies. Zika bal acher, but if while he was alive, he just gave it to somebody and even in fact, even if he didn't give it, but he just said, take it and I'm giving it to you on the star for them, it'll also be good enough. Bain mina yarshim, whether the person is one of the inheritors or not, or someone else, as long as he did it. Now, then it works. Tana Rabbanan, we learn. Hazy daitike. What is a daitike? Okay, he says kol shekosabo, because this is where the name comes from. The name daitike, he's really writing da tehe lemekam. He says this paper should be for the thing to stand and to take place. After I die, the following should happen. That's the word daitike. The hazy matana. And what's the difference when a thing's a gift? A gift is kol shebosmi yom chamisa. A gift is a person says, for example. But even if he just says, he says, listen, This is yours from today and after death. In other words, what? From this day forward, you own the land, but I continue the debt because this is common. If a person said the person doesn't want to give away his ability to make money for what he says, look, it's from yours to today and after death. So from today, the land is yours, but the dying man says, what? I maintain rights to the use of rock, and then afterwards it'll all go over to you. So and certainly if he would say what from today, he said, listen, it's yours now. I'm giving you the land and the use of and everything. It's certainly good. Anything that knows the gift is from now, and the Daitike is really trying to work when after he dies.
Witness that that will.
Well, we have to know something in order to make it happen. Yeah, how's it going to happen? Okay, Tana Rabbanim. Okay, now we learn. Easy. So pardon me. So we said that's the Easy Matana. Matana is what he says from now and after death. And certainly, if he writes what, it's a gift here. It's a gift from now. Goodbye, Charlie. Ella. Okay. My Yom Lachamisa, who davi matana? So it says, what's it? So Gus says, 1 second. He says the only thing that works is the gift is now and after death. I'm saying from now he gives it completely. It's nothing. I'm Rabbi, like I said, Achikamar. It really means what? Like I said, I jumped it. Okay, Azi matanas bari she means to say like this. Of course, both things work, like I said to you. But what is a healthy gift that works the same way as a dead man's gift? So how can you give a gift that only works after death? That would be the case of what? When a guy writes, it's yours now and after death. Ironically, the land it's really the land is his now, and the use of to the giver. So it really only finally transfers after death. So even though usually you can't do that with a gift, so you can't give something a gift. That's a case where he's actually given it from now. But again, the use of goes over after it. So it looks like functioning the same way as an inheritance. Yosef Rabbi Bar Huna Bachsadu Beirav. Rabbi Bar Huna was sitting in the colonnade of the house of Rebbe. They were sitting and learning in this colonnade. This colonnade. The Yosef, okay, Bakama, and he said the following. He said to Yochanan, Shiva Rosh Amar Kisru Utnu Mana Leploni. If he said, write and give this 100, which is a problem, but let's say 100 worth, okay, of my write it and give to Mr. X, okay, Umes, and then he dies before they wrote it and gave it. He said, write it down and give it to him. Write the paper and give it to him. He died before they did it. And Kosu Nosen, you can't now after he's dead, you can't write it down and give it. Why? Because maybe you're right. Had it been just inheritance, so we said, look, we say that when a dying man speaks, it's as if it's given. But over here, maybe he only wanted to give it by paper. No, he wanted to do it specifically with a paper. Paper can't work if the person's dead. Who Rabbi Lazarus, he said to me, so I said, and Rabbi Lazarus said, he's Darubai. He says, pay attention to that. So that's a good law. Keep it. That's the right law. That law is right. If Shizbi Amar says no, but Shizbi that's not what happened. Is Rabbi Lazar Amar? Rabbi Lazar who said the law is that you can't you write it. Why? You can't write it. Rabbi Yochanan is Rabbi Yochanan said it. Why? Because Rabbi Yochanan is the rabbi. It doesn't make sense that the rabbi said something and the student ratified it. It must be what? Rabbi Lazar, the student said it. Rabbi Yochanan ratified it and said that's the law. Amrav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Nachman Yitzchak said, "Kavasi Dor Shizdi Mistabra." Said it makes sense what he said. Yamas B'Shama Rabbi Lazar Amra. Okay, it makes sense. Rabbi Lazar, the student, said it. He's the Rabbi Yochanan Asudele. It makes sense. Rabbi Yochanan is going to have to ratify it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Why the Rabbi Lazar? Okay. The Rabbi Lazar. The studio Rabbi Lazar makes sense that Rabbi Yochanan had to ratify what Rabbi Lazar said because he's the student. Eliyam was Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, the Rebbe said it. It's Rabbi Lazar. The studio Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi. But Rabbi Lazar have to come and ratify what his Rabbi Yochanan said. It doesn't make sense. Well, and furthermore, anyway, I have another reason why. It says Toshma, and he says the Rabbi Lazar. I'll show you that Rabbi Lazar certainly was the one who said this rule that you can't write it and give it after death. The Shalach Rabbi Mishmeid Rabbi Abba, he said the following. Yodim no, Shalach Rabbi Lazar Begol Mishum Rabbeinu. Rabbi Lazar sent out to the exile in the name of Rav. If a guy was dying, said write it 100 worth to Mr. X and give it to him, and he died beforehand, and before they could do it. And Kosu and Oslim, we don't write it down and give it. Shemalo Gomerlach Noso. Okay, Ela Bishtar. Maybe the guy only wanted to do it by paper. And the paper doesn't work after that. Rabbi Yochanan said what? He says, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, and Rabbi Yochanan, but look how the story goes. Rabbi Yochanan said about that, Tibade. look into it. You have to see. It depends. It depends. He said, no, it depends. It's not necessarily no good. It might be good, it might not be good. Why is that? Because we're not clear when the guy says write it. What does he really want? Was he a stickler? He says, look, I only want to give it to him in this legal way, but not another way. What's going on? He says, Mighty Badik, what does he mean to check it? Kiater of Dimi, when Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Babel, Amar, he said the following. He said, Daitike mevatelas daitike. One law he taught us was what? That one paper of one paper of directive for after a person's death, okay, he wrote cancels another. So if you, let's say he wrote down after I die it goes to X, and afterwards you wrote a second paper that says it goes to Y. So when it goes to this, one that cancels the other, and the later one cancels the first, and it goes to the person he sent it to. Here's the second law that he said. Like we said, he says if a guy's dying and he said write a paper and give it to Mr. X, and he died before they did it. He said, row in. He said, look at this. He says, look, you see, serialized it. He said, look into it. Okay. If the reason he's writing the paper is just because he wants to strengthen the person, so the person will have a paper as a proof, okay, Kosrin, then you can even write after he died. Why? Because he never meant to limit it to the transfer of a paper. When he wanted him to have a paper to bolster his bolster, he's really just giving it to him. So that's like a rule of anybody when they're dying. He said it's good enough. But if we see what though that he really meant to say what he only wants it to be done with the paper and kosher, then you're not right. So you have to examine what he said. So I have to be able to check out from his language. Masi Rav Abba Bar Mama. Rav Mama came to ask a kasha. He said we learned Bari Shomer Kisvu Tnu Mana Ploni Amaze. We learned he says if a guy who's healthy, he said write and give so much to somebody and he died. And kosher and afterwards we don't do it. So you see what? It's only the only reason you don't write it is why? Because it was a healthy man. It was a healthy man who said it. But a dying man who's usually we're able to do things just on his word. You don't need any papers. Kosher knows you can't do it. So you see that's not the law. So, he raised the difficulty, but he removes the difficulty that he raised. Why? He says, when did we go? Okay, why? When do we say it's no? When do we say that? When do we say that what? When do we say that that if he's a dying man, that we do write it after his death? It's specifically when we can see from his language that he never meant to limit the transfer to a paper. He just was saying paper in order to bolster the inheritors claim, the giftee's claim. So there's no problem. So everything works. What is a case? What does it look like? What does it look like? We see what kind of language. How does the person speak when he just wants to strengthen it? He's really giving it. He just wants the paper to bolster the guy. Like we'll learn much later in the ninth chapter. Later in the ninth chapter, that what the guy writes this. He says the kanina mine, okay, mosiv matanta da, and the kinyan that we took from him came to add to this gift. So it's clear that the paper is coming to bolster what? To bolster the guy's words. Okay, so he's really giving it orally. Nachanami, okay, also here, the Omar, he says, he says what? And also write it down and sign it, and it'll be to him. So it's clear that he's giving the paper to strengthen the gift and not to exclusively be the vehicle for the gift. We learned that from halacha kosher nosen. He says the truth is, he says as long as the guy was doing it in order to strengthen it, the halacha is what? That we write it after his death and give it. Rav Nachman, the halacha is indeed in that case kosher nosen, and we give it, and we'll call that a dove. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
So I had
Just
you're talking about that.
yeah.
What guy?
There was
Monica, go fortune, see you on the
Store.
Yeah.
so I
So I still don't know if I'm adopted.
several
I'm not
pictures of
sure.
it dying.
Yeah.
To look it up in the records of the county
And
court.
one
Yeah.
was report the program stick.
I didn't know.
You know who he read the name?
No.
The Murtz program is by the time he was 11 or 12 in Shas.
My sister said.
By the time he was in his 20s, he was involved in a big city and a major
Everyone is
post.
competing for attention.
In any event, so the guy Mr. Page.
Mr. Kimberman, good to see you.
That's my brother.
Good to see you.
He's a fry guy.
What's your
name?
But he changed his name from Pogromsky to Page.
Mr. Abramsky.
And,
That's his name.
Oh,
and we wound
Sure.
up becoming
He's coming.
friends with
That's
them to
incredible.
an extent. with
Mordecai,
Curry with them.
you changed
You know,
your name
they-
today for my man. He was Bobby last week when you thought he was gonna vote Democratic. And today, all of a sudden, he was Robin. You come to
Okay.
ahead.
However, I think what happened is somebody pissed away. And then the family goes through his papers and it's a check. And in the memo, it says in payment of a debt.
Yeah, I mean, should they give the check to the guy?
The check, that today's check considered just a plain
The
star.
bank won't honor it if they know he's dead.
Oh.
The bank itself will not cash a check if they know he's